The trade. The Kings get Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, and a second-round pick, and the Pacers get Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. Going into the deadline, I expected the Pacers to be active. After they dumped Caris LeVert in exchange for a first-round pick, I thought that either one of Sabonis or Turner was going to be on the move, if not both. It was clear that they wanted to change their roster, potentially reset it completely. That made sense. I also expected Sacramento to be active because that's what we had been hearing about them for weeks, whether it be Simmons rumors, whether it be Sabonis rumors, whatever the case may be, they were desperate to break their playoff drought streak. And so I did expect them to make some kind of move this week. I did not, however, expect this. Quickly, before I am very mean to the Kings for the majority of the rest of the video, let's talk about why this would make sense for them. It won't take long. First up, they have a lot of guards. They have a ton of guards, or at least prior to this trade, they did. De'Aaron Fox, Davion Mitchell, Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield. There was a lack of clarity in the backcourt. There wasn't enough minutes for certain guys to develop. There wasn't a very clearly defined set of roles for each of these players, and it was just a little bit unclear what the overall plan was. And so ultimately, I expected Buddy Hield to be moved to kind of break up that logjam, but this trade does accomplish that. And also, Domantas Sabonis is really good. He's an all-star caliber player. He's someone that fits relatively well in Sacramento. There's some interesting combinations there, whether it be in the pick and roll alongside De'Aaron Fox, whether it be his ability to facilitate in the high post. Defensively, there are obviously some concerns there, but it's certainly an addition of talent to their team. And then lastly, Buddy Hield has been unhappy for a while now. I'm honestly surprised that it took them this long to move him. There's been rumors about him for literally years, and so they do move on from a player that's unhappy in Sacramento. Okay, that's the end of that. Here's the bottom line. This Tyrese Haliburton trade makes absolutely no sense to me. Let's first just talk about the players involved, which honestly isn't even the biggest part of it, but it's where we need to start. Tyrese Haliburton is arguably the best player on the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox was more highly drafted when he came to Sacramento. Buddy Hield has put up better statistics over the last couple of seasons that he's been in Sacramento than Haliburton has through his first year and a half with the Kings. But there is an argument to be made that Tyrese Haliburton is the best player on the roster. And as recently as a week and a half ago, the reports were that they were going to build around Fox and Haliburton, and everybody else was potentially on the table. The plan was, as far as we knew, to build around Fox and Haliburton, move some other pieces on the roster, push for the playoffs this year, but also keep in mind the long-term future of the group, which is largely revolving around Tyrese Haliburton. But the idea that he would even be available for a trade today really wasn't even part of my thinking going into the trade deadline. It's really rare to see a player on a rookie contract in his first couple years in the league who's clearly going to be very, very good traded away for a player that isn't an absolute superstar. The only other recent examples to this Haliburton situation are Brandon Ingram, who averaged over 30 minutes a game and was traded while on his rookie contract, and SGA, who averaged over 26 minutes a game and was traded after just his first season. But those two guys were moved for Anthony Davis and Paul George, all NBA level players, no disrespect to Domantas Sabonis. And so it seemed like the Kings were going to do the correct thing and build around these two guards, which makes total sense to me. Tyrese Haliburton makes winning plays. He's continued to develop and grow as a scorer, as a shooter, as a facilitator. He can be a very good defensive player. He has a really great fit with pretty much anybody you want to put around him. And his growth as a player and his production really accelerated when De'Aaron Fox missed some time earlier this season, and it became clear that his upside was higher offensively than we initially thought that it would be. But that's not even the biggest reason why this trade is completely crazy. Tyrese Haliburton was drafted last year. He's under team control until at least 2024. He has this season and then 2 more years on a rookie contract that pays him between $4 and $5 million a year. And then in 2024, he becomes a restricted free agent. And Sacramento had him under team control for worst case, assuming they re-signed him as a restricted free agent, until his 7th year in the league. So in any scenario in which Sacramento does not trade Tyrese Haliburton, they have him for his first 7 years, the first couple on a very reasonable bargain rookie contract, and the few following that on a deal that he's probably going to be worth given his growth as a player. And again, I want to reiterate, this is a guy that is arguably the best player on the team. But Sacramento apparently did not like that. They did not like the idea of having someone as talented, as young, with the upside that Tyrese Haliburton has, under team control for 7 seasons. So they traded him for Domantas Sabonis, who, as I mentioned, is a very good basketball player. However, he's going to be making between $18 to $21 million a year for the next couple of seasons. He becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2024, in which Sacramento could lose him in free agency. And even if they did manage to re-sign him, he would be eligible for a contract extension that is significantly higher than what Haliburton would have been eligible for in 2024 as a restricted free agent because of his years of service in the league. Which leads me to the overarching point of the entire video. I would not have done this trade if I was Sacramento, even if it was Tyrese Haliburton for Domantas Sabonis straight up. Obviously, that's not possible given the way that salaries work and the fact that you have to match salaries in NBA trades, but if in a theoretical universe it was possible to trade Tyrese Haliburton for Domantas Sabonis, I would have said no if I was Sacramento. And that's without even accounting for the other assets in the trade in which you could argue Sacramento gave up even more. Nothing about what I just said is a reason for Sacramento to make this move, yet they did it anyway. So why in the world would this be something they would do? Well, first things first, they're the Kings. They're going to make mistakes. It's what they do. And their desperation to make the playoffs this season and to break that playoff drought has really hampered the long-term future of this team. I'm not convinced that anybody that they have on the roster is a real significant asset moving forward, apart from Sabonis, who they just traded for. But I don't really know that it's a great idea to bank on Sabonis being happy in Sacramento for the next couple of seasons and then staying in 2024. Because it's Sacramento, nobody's ever happy there. Everybody always wants to leave. They want to get traded, and I don't think that's going to be any different with Sabonis. De'Aaron Fox is massively overpaid based off the way that he's playing at the moment. There's some upside there, some potential. He can become an all-star caliber player down the road for sure, but he's not there right now. Davion Mitchell has not looked promising at all offensively to begin his career. And I'm looking at the rest of this roster, and it's mostly just trade pieces for other teams. And I knew that Sacramento was going to do something, and it was probably going to be weird because almost every other team in the league, if they looked at this roster, they looked at the trajectory of where this team was going, they would have gone the opposite direction. They would have dumped players like Harrison Barnes, Richaun Holmes, Buddy Hield for future assets and tried to create a team around Fox, but mostly Haliburton, that made sense into the future. But Sacramento reportedly just continually said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to go the opposite direction. We want to push for the playoffs, which I was honestly fine with when I thought it was just going to be Buddy Hield for some stuff, not Tyrese Haliburton. And then you look at the trade as a whole and you think about all the points that I've made in this video about the fact that I wouldn't have done Haliburton for Sabonis straight up. And you talk about team control and contracts and all the things that go into team building. And then Sacramento gave up even more than that in the deal. It's Sabonis in exchange for basically Buddy Hield and Tyrese Haliburton is how this trade breaks down. And I know that Buddy Hield is not this massive asset, but I thought that they could have gotten a first-round pick for him or some kind of interesting young player, something in exchange for Buddy Hield to another team. And they didn't even do that. They added assets to Tyrese Haliburton to get Domantas Sabonis. Now, to be fair to them, maybe it works perfectly. Maybe Fox was unhappy or worried about his happiness despite the fact that he just signed this massive contract extension that he's probably not even worth in the first place. But sure, maybe you make the playoffs this year, you finally break that playoff drought, and that's a really good and a positive thing for you. Sabonis is an all-star caliber player for the next couple of seasons. He re-signs in 2024. You add some wings to this group. Davion Mitchell continues to develop, and you're a top 4 seed in the West in 2027. Cool. Maybe that's the case, but you know what? I'd still rather have Tyrese Haliburton. Okay, let's talk about Indiana. Why is Indiana doing this? Well, I just laid out the case for why Tyrese Haliburton is a really cool asset. There's a reason why he was someone that was continually in all these different rumors, whether it be to Philadelphia with the Ben Simmons stuff or any different number of things. They move Caris LeVert to Cleveland and they get a first-round pick in exchange for him in addition to Ricky Rubio's expiring contract. They get out of some money there. They bring in Buddy Hield, who I think is an asset that they can use this year or trade to someone else into the future and get maybe a first-round pick out of him as well. You replace LeVert with Tyrese Haliburton to pair with Malcolm Brogdon and Chris Duarte, and you move on from Sabonis, which opens things up for Miles Turner at the 5, which reportedly he's very happy about. And all of a sudden you've fixed a lot of the problems with your roster in a couple of days span, and you've done an incredible job of reshaping this group for the present as well as for the future. And so I think it's pretty clear where I land on this one. This is an incredible job by Indiana to get Tyrese Haliburton in exchange for Domantas Sabonis. When I was thinking about trades and looking at what they could possibly get, I wasn't thinking they were going to be able to get someone like that in exchange for him. I thought they were going to have to settle for a bit more of a veteran player or some middling draft picks or something like that just to move on from Sabonis for the sake of moving on from him and opening things up for Miles Turner. But the fact that they get Tyrese Haliburton back is a huge W. Meanwhile, for Sacramento and their fans, I don't know what to tell you. It's unfortunate that this is the way that it's breaking down. If I was you, I'd be heartbroken that I no longer had Tyrese Haliburton on my basketball team, and I would just hope beyond everything that De'Aaron Fox figures it out and that him and Domantas Sabonis are a really cool fit, and you can figure out some stuff into the future with your wings and Davion Mitchell develops and maybe you'll be good. I wouldn't count on it though. This has got to be one of the most shocking trades I can remember in trade deadline history over the last 10 years. And honestly, I don't think there's any other franchise in the entire league that would have made this move other than Sacramento.